right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook.
Steelers trying to stay undefeated. Pitt and Virginia Tech play with masks on the field, kind of. And the Pirates shave a couple spots off the roster. We'll talk about all of it coming up in just a few moments. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm your host, Josh Taylor, in for you on a Friday night. We got a lot to talk about here. We mentioned the Pirates, mentioned the Pitt, but we're going to start out with the Steelers. But to help me talk about all those things live from the 93.7 The Fan newsroom, he is the host of the Paul Zeise Show on 93.7 The Fan, also columnist for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Paul Zeise joins me. Paul, let's start with the Steelers. I want to start with a piece that came up this week. Jesse Washington from The Undefeated, really good local writer, shout out to Jesse, good stuff, has a piece talking about Mike Tomlin finally getting over the naysayers here in Pittsburgh with his work with the Steelers this season. I want to ask you this question, Paul. As far as what Mike Tomlin has done this season, dealing with the pandemic, dealing with all the issues, and so many other football teams have had their problems, but they've been able to continue winning games. Why does this season stand out as far as what he's done compared to the rest of his resume, or does it stand out for you?
Ask me in about 10 weeks. You know, I mean, as I wrote today in the Post-Gazette, the Steelers have accomplished absolutely nothing yet. They haven't won a division. They haven't, got the top seed. They haven't won playoff games. They haven't gotten to the Super Bowl. They've won 9 games in a row, and it's been impressive, and he's done a good job. I mean, I've always thought Mike Tomlin's a good coach, but if you're going to ask me where's this rank among the jobs that he's done, he's won a Super Bowl before. So
and gone to another one.
And he got to another one. So if this team doesn't get to a Super Bowl, at the very best, this is the third best job he's ever done. I mean, he's done a nice job, but I mean, to me, people just have this tendency to get way ahead of themselves, not understanding for some reason, even though we've watched football now for centuries, it seems, there's 7 weeks left and the playoffs. A lot can happen. So, he's done a great job. He's kept his team focused. They've got good players, obviously. They've drafted well over the last few years, especially on defense and a receiver or whatever. But, I didn't ever think he has not done a good job. I mean, I thought that there's some things that you can criticize him for that I think are very legitimate criticisms.
Very fair.
But by the same token, overall, his body of work has been, pretty good. And this year, so far, it's been outstanding. But I didn't need this season to validate Mike Tomlin in my mind, and I think a lot of people probably didn't either. I think sometimes we just like to create these straw men and then, try and knock them down. I think for the most part, outside of the lunatic fringe who used to call, sometimes when you were on the radio, or calls me when I'm on the radio, outside of some of those people, for the most part, people understand Mike Tomlin's done a really good job here with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You talked about validating Mike Tomlin. There are a lot of fans out there, and I don't want to necessarily categorize them as a lunatic fringe, but there are some fans out there that have taken some exception, not just to Mike Tomlin, but the Steelers organization as a whole. They feel like Ben Roethlisberger's being overlooked for MVP votes. They feel like, maybe some of the guys on defense, TJ Watt's being overlooked for recognition for Defensive Player of the Year. I feel like it's the second year in a row he may be overlooked for Defensive Player of the Year. But Zach Banner had a pretty interesting tweet kind of listing off some of the guys who should be winning awards with this organization. And I'll ask you this question. Is the feeling, locally at least, of feeling like some of the guys on this team are being overlooked on the national landscape, is that at least justified in that regard?
Well, Josh, I'll say it again. Ask me in about 8 or 9 or 10 weeks when these things are actually decided. I would have to believe that if the Steelers are 14-2 or 15-1 and Ben Roethlisberger keeps doing what he's doing, his name will be involved in the MVP. Now, will he win it? I don't know. I mean, the other thing that a lot of times happens is we get so singularly focused on the team here, we don't realize there's a whole lot of other guys in the league who are having really good seasons. I would assume if they're 14-2, 15-1, Chase Claypool will probably get into the Rookie of the Year discussion. T.J. Watt will get into the Defensive Player of the Year discussion. It's sort of to the victor goes the spoils. But again, we're barely, just past halfway through the season. So nothing is handed out here. I had a guy who told me I was crazy because I wrote, today, hey, they really haven't accomplished anything yet. Can we cool the Jets a little bit? And my response was, oh, did I miss a trophy ceremony? Did they win something today that I didn't know about? Because nothing gets handed out now and won't for another 2 months.
I was asked this question individually at another time off air, and I was asked about how comfortable I felt about where the Steelers are. And I said, if they beat Jacksonville Sunday and if they beat Baltimore on Thanksgiving Day, then I'll feel more comfortable, because we're talking about a 4-game lead in the division. You're talking about an 11-0 record to that point. And at that point, you're pretty much just trying to play for the number 1 seed. After everything else is pretty much sewn up, I might breathe a little bit easier. But yeah, to your point, there's still a lot to be dictated in the next several weeks. We will take a break. We come back. We got to talk about Pitt still, and we got to talk about some changes with the Pirates roster. Plus, we're taking your phone calls, 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Stay with us.